What's up, CFO gang? It's your boy Jay Tuck. Real Cowboys fans, stand up. And yo, today, mandatory OTAs have kicked off, right? And a lot of interesting nuggets when it comes to our Dallas Cowboys. Now, Mike McCarthy had his opening press conference, spoke about a lot of good things we'll definitely talk about, but go ahead and check out the interview the Dallas Cowboys did. Watch it for yourselves, right? But, there's a lot of interesting things that Mike McCarthy spoke about. One, Micah Parsons is at mandatory camp. Micah Parsons is at mandatory camp, right? But y'all not surprised by that because I told y'all he would be there yesterday, right? But CeeDee Lamb, he isn't, right? And Mike McCarthy kind of spoke about the business aspect. He talked about OTAs. What it's really about is about the installs. It's about the younger players getting their reps, getting prepared for training camp. So he understands there's a business aspect when it comes to CeeDee Lamb and negotiations and why CeeDee Lamb isn't there. But he trusts that CeeDee Lamb is a veteran and he will be ready when it's time to play. And what's extremely funny to me, you know what I find funny is that when Micah Parsons was missing voluntary camp, the tonality of a lot of these tweets and posts and articles was completely different than it is today with CeeDee Lamb missing mandatory camp. Like, Micah's there at mandatory. He participated today, and we'll get to Micah here in a second. But last week, it was a lot of malicious intent. But this week, it's just like, oh, well, CeeDee's not there. He's holding out business. Is being business. Right, but it is what it is. But Michael Gelkin asked a great question. So look to Michael Gelkin, man. He's one of the slim few we can really trust in house. I'm just going to put B out there. I'm just going to say we can trust Mike, right? He's not compromised. But he spoke about, Jake Ferguson, being a little bit heavier and how the weight helps him perform being at a heavier weight. I think Jake Ferguson's reported like 5 pounds heavier, right? So Mike McCarthy had talked about, the weight with different players, and what he's trying to show is the advantages of you playing at certain different weights. And what he's wanting to have is more kind of like a catch weight for boxing, right? So if you're 250, Mike McCarthy might say, I want you at 255. But don't drop below 245, right? So it looks like, some of the data points that Mike McCarthy is going to implement this year is to make sure we don't have another Mozzie Smith situation where we're looking up and saying, okay, what the hell really happened? But he also spoke about Tyler Smith. And I really caught this. And I don't think a lot of people caught this. He said that when it comes to Tyler Smith, we look at the defensive tackles and defensive lines that we're going to have to face at guard and interior, they're going to be extremely strong. So you want Tyler Smith to have that power to deal with some of the physicality that we're going to face throughout this season. But he also said he doesn't want him to get too big because we might still need him at left tackle. So when it comes to Tyler Smith, man, he's still not fully out of the left tackle picture, right? I think he's still going to kind of cross train. We're going to go out there with Tyler Guyton and also Tyler Smith at left guard. But if things hit the fan, they seem like they still have in the play that they could kick Tyler Smith out to left tackle. So for Tyler, man, you can't get too beefy. You got to stay agile on the actual perimeter, right? So camp kicked off. Talked about a few things, right? Coach Zimmer had some interviews and press conferences. But of course, right? Micah Parsons. And Micah Parsons was there. But there were a lot of interesting nuggets that I picked up from what James Slater reported, and we'll talk about this here in a second. But here is what I want to prepare you Cowboys fans for. This is where you guys might comment, Tuck, you're being too negative. This might be the negative Tuck, but like I told y'all a few videos, I'm putting on my analysis hat, and it's all I can be, man. I can't be a fake analysis, and a lot of people who come here for me to keep it real. What we have to be aware of when it comes to our defense is we have a bunch of substitute teachers as defensive coaches. What do I mean by that? You have a bunch of new guys on one-year deals. And we've all been in classes. Sometimes we know how we can be at school where you have a bunch of substitutes or a substitute teacher comes in and you start to bend the rules, right? Because the question that needs to be asked to the Cowboys organization, their front office, how do you expect fans, but also the players to buy in to a coaching staff when you are not even bought and sold in on your damn self. You brought Zimmer in 1-year deal. Zimmer might not even be our defensive coordinator next year, right? A lot of these guys might not even be here next year. Well, Mike McCarthy. So there's a lot of uncertainty and dark clouds when it comes to this coaching staff. So we have to be very cautious with that because players are human. We do the same things at our job, right? If we feel like we got a new manager, like case in point, I had a manager who hired me. I loved her. She believed in me. She wanted me to spread my wings. She believes I could be one of the top sales people in the companies. So anytime I had an idea, I brought it to her. She was like, go for it. I trust you, because she really wanted me to spread my wings. She moved on to a different position. Got a brand new manager. He ain't talked to me or nothing. I was the top sales guy. I was one of the top sales guys in the entire region. He ain't never speak to me. He had never, you know what I'm saying? Hey, how's your kids or wife? You know, tell me a little bit about yourself. I ain't hear nothing from dude. And when I would reach out to him and kind of say, okay, should I be doing this? I never really got no email responses. It was nothing. So I didn't have that same type of relationship with him that I had with my previous manager. I was like, bro, I never even talked to you. I never even heard from you. So it's a little bit different, right? So I kind of just did my thing, put up my numbers, and went home, right? So what am I getting at? Well, Jane Slater had reported today, there's some interesting tidbits, right? So she said that we caught up with Micah Parsons today, and he didn't shy away, right? Micah Parsons does not shy away from anything. He just doesn't do it that way. He's not in your little Leonardo box. He's a Raphael. We caught up with Raphael Micah Parsons today, and he didn't shy away from questions about his absence from voluntary OTAs, the need to build chemistry in his relationship with defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer. Worth a read versus 140 characters, a thread. Right now, Jane, you can type more than 140 characters because you got Twitter Blue, but fire thread from Jane Slater. She's one of the best too. I like Jane, right? She does her thing. Sometimes she might slip and fall a little bit, but Jane is honest. You know what I'm saying? Jane's just doing her job. So Micah talks about his thoughts on voluntary OTAs, and discusses Aaron Donald's absence and success. Right now, here is what I'll say when it comes to Micah Parsons. Let me zoom in because Micah might need to hear this from me real quick. Now I'll say this: I do talk to Micah off script, right? I talk to Micah a little bit off script, but normally when we talk, it's not even about Cowboys football. It's about other stuff. We were talking the other day about boxing and all sorts of stuff. So I don't really pry to kind of ask things like that. But Micah, if you're watching, this is just J Tuck talking to you man to man. Knowing how the Cowboys are, knowing how this fan base is, you will never be able to go back to being the lovable lion that everybody loved their rookie year. Now, Micah Parsons has been very outspoken since the moment he's got here. You remember him on Hard Knocks? Right? This dude likes mayo on his glizzy. He like, you know what I'm saying? Micah was being Micah then, right? But back then it was lovable. Everyone liked Micah Parsons being outspoken, and we were all grabbing and rubbing on our bellies like lions. We loved it back then. But for whatever reason now, Micah, you have now gotten a target on your back. And what happens amongst Cowboys Nation even happens to us little old content creators. The bigger you get, the more uncontrollable you get, they don't like it. They really don't like it. So you're at a point where you're up here, your name is too big, is always in lights, everyone around the NFL loves you, so you don't walk this straight line compared to what Cowboys fans want. They have a target on your back, right? And when these bloodsuckers get a bite, they leech on and they will not let go no matter how many sacks you get. So what I'm getting at, no matter what you do, Micah, whether it's a podcast, you could delete the podcast tomorrow. Cowboys fans, some have already made in their mind they don't like you because you're not fitting in their little comfortable box. And they're going to have it into you whether you want it to or not. So just be true to yourself. Go out there and play ball. It just is what it is, right? So he talks about the absence. He mentioned Aaron Donald, right? So he says, the business side to it, and you know that whether I like it or not, there's rookies, people I came in with that's not even here anymore. I think that's what camp is for. So what he's saying from a camaraderie standpoint, the camaraderie really comes in camp. I mean, there was a time where Aaron Donald didn't even go to camp and he won Defensive Player of the Year and then went to the playoffs. Like, are we forgetting these times? Like, wasn't we talking about the best defensive player even in camp? And we're in mini camps, voluntary voluntary. I told you guys, voluntary at that. So, minicamp was something that is mandatory. So I'm just looking at it as time for my body to heal. I'm playing as an undersized rusher who is banged up every year, so I'm just letting my body heal, okay? He also talked about pointing out the chemistry in the building and trips and hangs out offseason, right? So he's like, you ever watch Remember the Titans? We're going to be in Oxnard for a very, very long time. They're out there for a hell of a long time, right? And that's where you build chemistry on the field. Because right now, you can't hit nobody, you can't touch nobody, you can't do none of that, right? Or you're going to lose draft picks and get fined. Remember, Mike McCarthy always kind of stuck around the rules, right? So we're not going to do that at this camp, right? So he's just saying that, right now with the voluntary stuff they were doing last week, you were just kind of walking around, just being around the facility. He mentioned that his son had kindergarten graduation, so he wanted to be at that, right? So what Jane Slater had mentioned in one of these tweets, where is the actual tweet? Let's see here. Where's her thread? Because she had mentioned something. Where is it at? Yeah, so she had mentioned something that really stuck out to me, and also Micah Parsons had mentioned this, and they were asking about Coach Zimmer. Let's see if I can find it. So I want to really make sure I show you guys this, right? So let's see here. Let's go to Michael Gelkin. Where is the concern? Yeah, here we go. Bang. All right, so Cowboys hybrid defensive end Micah Parsons said he and defensive coach Mike Zimmer haven't spoken directly too much. Honestly, me and Zim probably had said a total of 20 words to each other. He's a very quiet person. He is a very quiet person. Listen, Cowboys Nation, this is a concern to me. If you are the new defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, you're on a 1-year prove-it deal. The very first person you should be talking to should be your best defensive player, and Micah Parsons. That's the very first, before you even find a house, before you even go to the facility, you reach out to Micah and say, hey, Micah, this is Coach Zim. I would like to meet and talk to you. You got some time. I got some ideas. 20 words. I have talked to Micah Parsons more times this offseason, said more words this offseason to Micah Parsons, the defensive coordinator. Red flag. But here we got to keep going, right? Because this is where it gets a little spicy, all right? All I keep hearing from coaches is Zim likes it his way. I was like, well, I like it this way. Zim likes it this way. I like it. Ooh, that's division. That is division. All right. I think it'll be pretty cool because obviously old school mindsets and old school mentality. I think he's had a lot of great players, but he ain't ever had a player like Micah Parsons before. It will be fun, and I think it's going to be unique. There are a lot of similarities on how he uses me to how Dan Quinn used me in his system, but he has more twists and turns, how he's going to be setting things up. Also, some things that I've gotten to get used to. I'm going to be in a compromisable relationship. This is where all the Micah haters jump out the window. Tuck, he's talking about compromising. Yes, you have to compromise in sports. Case in point, we all love Tony Romo. He's back there on my wall right there. If you guys can't tell, that's Tony Romo. I'm a Tony Romo fan, right? Tony Romo compromise, right? Sometimes he would do things Jason Garrett's way, but sometimes he would say, F that play, and I'm going to do things my way, right? Pat Mahomes, there's a compromise. Sometimes they go with Andy Reid's play call. Sometimes it's like, nah, I can't. I'm going to have to be a player and just go out and play that way, right? You guys remember when I had Will Blackman on my show. What did he say? Mike McCarthy, when he had Charles Woodson, there was no compromise. Charles Woodson was going to go out there and just be great and do his thing. It's going to be the same thing with Micah Parsons. Sometimes when it comes to a great player, you have to compromise. Mike McCarthy did it last year with his Texas Coast offense, right? He compromised. He's like, listen, this ain't working. Dak, just go be you. Forget all the interception talk. Forget all that. Go out there and be you, right? So people got to understand there will be a compromise in sports because the one thing we can't have is a Mike Nolan situation, y'all, where you're going out there saying, I'm going to do things my way, and I'm going to do a 3-4-2 gap in whatever, and you don't have your ingredients to cook that type of dinner. Zimmer doesn't have all of his guys, right? So there's going to be a compromise for me. So I'm going to take some of Dan Quinn's things that he's done well and implement that with his players, because I can't do a complete overhaul and get that done by week 1. It's just not rational, just not reasonable, right? It's going to be too much of a learning curve. So we're going to take some of the positives and work on some of the negatives. So I know Cowboys fans compromise relationship. Micah shouldn't compromise. He should be a good old lion. It is do as he say. That's not going to happen, especially not with a substitute teacher. And he also spoke about, Micah Parsons spoken about, since Dan Quinn has left, Mike McCarthy has really built a stronger relationship with him and has been talking to him a whole lot more than prior to kind of fill that void of Dan Quinn leaving, right? So it looks like Mike McCarthy is stepping in, kind of being that void and talking to Micah and having the conversations about, you know, family and different things like that, like he has with Dak Prescott. But me personally, Coach Zim, get off the seat, bro. You're going to have to do that. You're not going to have to do that with Micah. You're going to have to do that with a lot of these players, because if you do not build relationship capital, it could get ugly, man. So it's your boy J Tuck. Comment, like, subscribe. Follow me on all social media platforms at JTuck151 so you do not miss out. Turn that notification bell. We got football season right here, man. A lot of football seeing our guys out there back in action. Feels good, even though they're not hitting nobody or doing anything. But listen, we got a lot to talk about this offseason. And with this Micah Parsons situation and this Trey Lance thing coming along and Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, there's never going to be a dull moment. So you want to lock in and make sure you're not missing out, man. I want everyone to stay safe, stay blessed, stay encouraged. And listen, y'all, I don't know. We want to sit back and watch, but buckle up. Peace.